This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy.
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, and welcome to it. If you're just joining us, 6 after in the second hour of the program here today, glad to have you on board. Donald Trump moving quickly through his agenda despite the distractions from the left that are still in the middle of their full-on temper tantrum, attacking Trump for all sorts of things, including things like emolument. Say emolument with me, if you will. It's an emolument is an enrichment that you would receive because you were a politician. You know, you've got a $500 payoff at the bar to go, you know, cast a vote for something. That'd be an emolument, I suppose. Or if you got a gift to have favorable legislation, that would be an emolument. But there's been a lawsuit filed against Donald Trump saying that, you know, if any time anybody stays at one of his hotels, that would qualify as an emolument. But that's not true. It's not true at all because, in fact, it's been tested by the Supreme Court at least 3 times so far. The normal course of business, through the ordinary course of business, an emolument, doing your job and continuing on with your normal, you know, your normal practices is not an emolument by definition by the Supreme Court. So anyhow, it's just another pointless lawsuit aimed at Donald Trump. Now he's going to today focus his efforts on immigration and so forth. And all the while, like I said, while the left is in a complete panic attack, they cannot come to terms. They cannot come to terms with the fact that they lost. It is simple as that. They cannot come to terms with the fact that they lost. And they're going to fight him every step of the way. And how bad is it out there? How bad is this angst on the left? Well, I found something here that should give you a pretty good idea. We're going to play part of it. I don't know if I'm going to play all of it, but I'm going to play part of it. You see, the DNC is getting together, and they're trying to figure out who's in charge of the Democratic National Committee. And they got some people running for the DNC chair. And one candidate, Sally Boynton Brown, a white woman, and the Idaho Democratic Party executive director, told an applauding crowd at the Democracy in Color Forum in Washington, D.C., "I'm a white woman. I don't get it. I need to shut other white people down." What? Well, what are you drinking? It's early. Anyhow, here it is. It's clip 18. Clip 18, go.
And it makes me sad that we're even having that conversation. And that tells me that white leaders in our party have failed. We have to accept that there is prejudice that exists within our own party. And we have to be able to have that conversation. We cannot sweep that under the rug. We cannot continue to hide it. We cannot smash voices down when they are trying to scream, "Listen to me, you don't get it." I'm a white woman. I don't get it. I am pleased and honored to be here today to have the conversation. I am so excited that we're here. And I am listening because that's my job. My job is to listen to the issues. My job is to listen and be a voice. And my job is to shut other white people down when they want to interrupt. My job is to shut other white people down when they want to say, "Oh, no, I'm not prejudiced. I'm a Democrat. I'm accepting." My job is to make sure that they get that they have privilege. And until we shut our mouths and we listen to those people who don't, and we lift our people up so that we all have equity in this country, so that we are all fighting alongside each other, so that we are all on the same page, and we clearly get where we're going. We're not going to
I don't get where they're going, but I think I'm going a different way. I'm done. Yeah, that's how you... And the First Amendment. Damn it, we hate the Constitution. How dare you speak up and have an opinion? I'm here to shut white people down. Really? I'm here to have a conversation with all people. I don't care where you're from, what your background is. I certainly don't care about the color of your skin. I'm here to have a conversation about how we can help this country. Not sections of this country, not subsects of this country, not little factions of this country. Everybody in this country. I'm not going to debate the silliness of white privilege or this privilege. I'm an American. An American has privilege and responsibilities. And as an American, I'm going to fight forward with all the people that are Americans first and some hyphenated something else later. You see, because I'm an American first. And Teddy Roosevelt was the best one. A hyphenated American is no American at all, said Teddy Roosevelt 100 years ago, and he was right then, and it still applies today. I'm here to roll up my sleeves and go to work and do what I can to help this country. John Kennedy asked not what your country can do for you, but rather what you can do for your country. That applies today. That applies today, maybe more than ever. And there are going to be tough choices ahead. There are. Donald Trump froze hiring for the federal government for employees. The left goes crazy. Listen, guys, we got to start cutting somewhere. We've got to roll back taxes, and the left goes crazy. Well, working families are struggling in many places. We've got to control our immigration, and the left goes crazy because somehow enforcing our laws that we've enforced for the entire existence of the nation, somehow those laws are now inherently racist. I don't think sovereignty is racism. I think it's rule of law. What do you think? It doesn't matter what this president does, they're going to go crazy. Keystone Pipeline, oh my God. He's going to destroy the world and the environment. Well, in America, we've done a pretty fine job of being the cleanest industrialized nation in the world. Travel a little bit and you'll find out that it's true. And then I'm telling you the truth. I have traveled a lot. I've seen industrialized nations other than our own. And the U.S. and Canada are the cleanest. Make no mistake. We're very good about cleaning up after ourselves. And when we're not, companies get punished. And companies don't want to be punished. Companies want to make profits. And they want to do it well. Oh, and by the way, those companies are run by something that we call people. People that breathe the same air, drink the same water, and consume food from the same land. And as a general rule, I believe those folks have pretty good interests in mind. Now, have there been bad actors over time? Of course there have. And those people get punished. But overbearing rules, dictating every step of the way, preventing people from having jobs because they're over-restricted and overtaxed and overburdened with regulation, that has to stop, and it will stop. And right now it is stopping because it started stopping at noon on Friday, January 20th, 2017. Just like he said, it stops here, and it stops now. Later today, Donald Trump is expected to sign executive orders beginning the enforcement of the southern border in the way that it was always supposed to be enforced. Not willy-nilly, not sort of sometimes, not when we feel like it, not if we, we can't do it if we hurt somebody's feelings. Listen, sovereignty. It is our nation, and it is our responsibility to enforce that border. 14 after on the Steve Gruber Show.
The Steve Gruber Show. American values with Midwestern common sense.
Working in a coal mine, going down, down, down.
18 after. 18 after here on the program, and glad to have you on board with us. Greatly appreciate your support every day. You can call and get your comments heard at 888-900-9966. Just can't get that little tickle out of my throat today. It happens. Probably, eating at the wrong places and doing the wrong things like Chipotle, my next guest's favorite restaurant. She just loves the place. Julie Gunlock, senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. She just loves the place.
I love the place.
Julie, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'd like you to know, and I'm going to confess here and now, that on Saturday, I was dead square in the middle of that march in Washington. It's true.
No, were you really?
It's true. It wasn't intentional, but it's true.
Tell me about it.
Well, I went to the inauguration the day before. We got up early. One of our congressmen, Tim Walberg, invited us to join him for a tour of the Capitol. We walked down to where Donald Trump was actually inaugurated, down the same steps that have been used since Ronald Reagan's first inauguration. Very cool. And then my daughter, who's 12, who was with us, said, well, I want to go to the Air and Space Museum of the Smithsonian. And I said, well, okay, it's getting crowded, but if we go, we'll get there. And we got crowded. And finally, at one point, we were packed in there so tight, we literally couldn't move. It was like a Who concert, back in the day. It was, but the educational experience for me was terrific, and for my daughter. Yeah. She found it to be a real eye opener, and didn't have a lot of pleasant things to say about the things that she read on the posters and the placards and the hats. And she goes, "I thought these people were supposed to be about love. Why do they hate everybody?"
Right.
I mean, that's from a 12-year-old.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And I think that it's easy to dismiss. I wrote that I was not going to go. I live right outside of Washington. I was not going to go to the march because I wasn't welcome. Explicitly, I was not welcome. But it's interesting. I think you can take your children down there to teach them something that the organizers certainly don't want them to learn, which is that this is absurd, that a lot of these women embarrass themselves, and that there really wasn't any point. There wasn't any point. There wasn't any. Why are you here? Nobody could really answer that
it's funny you said that, because at one point, on two different times, both Ivy was confronted by somebody, a woman, because we were trying to get through. We were going against the current, if you will. We were trying to get to this. So they're marching that way. We're trying to squeeze through this way. And the one woman looked at Ivy and then looked at my daughter. Why are you even here? And my daughter's like, I don't want to be here. I just want to go to a museum. And I think it just stunned them. My daughter, of course, she's 5'6" or whatever. She's not small, and she's pretty well put together, and she was not intimidated by these people, and just basically leaves me alone. I'm trying to go that way, and frankly, you guys are screwing up my day.
Yeah. Well, what's so interesting too is I live in Northern Virginia, and I call it the People's Republic of Northern Virginia, and I have lots of friends that were excited about the march, and they knitted their gross graphic little hats, and they were all excited. And I've asked a couple of them, did you know that one of the organizers is pushing and promoting the idea of Sharia law on communities and in schools? Did you know that? And so many of them don't have any idea.
The thing is,
and some of them don't really quite understand what Sharia law is. And after I explain it and say, boy, you think Trump's bad, just wait until you're not allowed to drive, or expose your hair, or leave the house.
How about genital mutilation that's forced upon girls in these countries? Yeah, that's always a nice touch. Forced genital mutilation, which goes in a lot of places around this world.
Where if you're raped, you're stoned, or you're forced to marry your rapist. I mean, these are fun times, right? I mean, I don't know if these women know that in Afghanistan, in Taliban-ruled areas, abortion is not legal, okay? You've got some bigger problems on your hands if Sharia law is actually in any way recognized, as it is in certain areas of Great Britain, which has caused some major problems. So, it just is nauseating to me that as a pro-life woman, I was not welcome, yet a woman who supports the subjugation of women is welcome. It makes no sense to me, and I think it reveals the confusion and lack of moral sort of guidance.
How about this? How about lack of moral guidance? How about this? Donald Trump excoriated for the comments that he made, not in public, but on a tour bus. Trying to be a big man on campus, and it gets played everywhere. He's a horrible human being, and that's why we have to be against Trump. And then Madonna and Ashley Judd, and the things. I mean, Madonna said things that would make Donald Trump blush. Frankly,
right? I know. Yeah, I love how suddenly we should all be monks. I mean, let's not forget Bill Clinton's a rapist. I mean,
but that doesn't
matter, right? None of these things matter. There's just such a hypocrisy, double standards. Every one of those words fits the women who organized this march.
It's cognitive dissociation is what it is. It's when you know something is wrong and you accept it anyway. It's cognitive dissociation.
That's right.
And it's a mental disorder, and it's something held by the left.
It is.
That'll be $250 for the diagnosis. Anyway, so you didn't go down there at all?
No, I didn't. We left town, actually. We were just kind of not really interested in the, swaying, celebrations on either side. And so we left town, and it was nice. But I was really disappointed, just to see, and also the suggestions of, you guys did it with the Tea Party. Well, we didn't do it the day after, okay? And we cleaned up after ourselves.
And okay? we didn't wear giant genital hats.
Right.
Right.
Some of the signs, were so vulgar and gross. And honestly, everybody's like, "Oh, you're such a priss."
I'm going to tell you the worst thing that I saw, and I saw it in a picture. I didn't see it in person. And this will sum it up for anybody that, and if you're going to need a strong stomach for this, if Mary had an abortion, we wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah, I saw that one. That's a charming sign. My goodness, can you imagine? I don't even know how your mind works that way, but indeed, that was a sign down there. And everybody acts like it was all love. It wasn't. There were some really harsh,
vile hatred.
Men. I mean, I am the mother of 3 boys. Do you think I want to take? I have friends who took their boys down there.
That's horrible.
Is it really appropriate for them to see the suggestion that all men are predators and a problem, and that men
it wasn't appropriate for any children, Julie. I got to leave it there. But I saw lots of kids. It wasn't appropriate for any of them. Julie Gunlock, always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Independent Women's Forum. You can find out more. Back in a moment.
Genuine Michigan common sense on display every day.
Now it's a legal matter, baby. You got me on the run. It's a legal matter, baby. A legal matter from now on.
All right, it is Wednesday, the 25th of January, and Donald Trump's train keeps rolling through the left. And no matter how many of them lay in the fetal position, weeping and crying and gnashing their teeth, doesn't seem to slow him down. You see, it's a crazy thing that no matter how you recount the vote, 306 to 232 is still a victory, and there's just no way to get around it. Real quickly to Matt on the hotline. Matt, welcome to it.
Yeah, Steve, I wanted to say that these journalists today are more activists than they are journalists, most people.
Clearly.
And the problem is they're obviously got an agenda to do the Saul Lindsay tactic on Trump. They're looking for hairs in the soup on racism.
Well, there you go.
All the time with Trump.
Yeah, that's the way it's going to be for the next several years. Matt, thanks for checking in. Donald Trump is going to be attacked every day with frivolous lawsuits, assaults from the left, both from Hollywood and the media, and that's okay. Because the more the left continues this pattern of behavior, this petulant, childish attitude, it's going to help Donald Trump because as he does the pipeline for Keystone, as he ends TPP and gets all of the union leaders to come to his office for a meeting and get endorsed by Trumpka. As these things continue to happen, Trump's numbers swell. According to the latest Rasmussen poll, his favorability ratings and performance in office, 57% approve. Dr. Herb London from the London Center stopping in now to talk more about this and Donald Trump's possible budding relationship with UK Prime Minister Theresa May. She'll be here Friday. Doctor, welcome back.
Well, pleasure to be with you. Always a treat.
Well, tell me about this meeting coming up. It could be truly important.
Well, I think it is very important, and it's important because it has the possibility of creating a cross-Atlantic treaty organization, lowering tariffs between the UK and the United States. I think is the harbinger of something very interesting, and that could be the creation of an Anglosphere, where the English-speaking nations that have an awful lot in common because of a similar constitutional background, like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States, and the UK, organized as an Anglosphere tariff zone. And what this would mean for the future is that other nations could participate, but it would create a kind of environment for a takeoff in economic development, not unlike what the Chinese are attempting to do with their Silk Road. This would be the competitor to the Silk Road, something that the Chinese obviously need. They must have this kind of competition, in my judgment, and it seems to me the United States and the UK could set the stage for it with this meeting that is taking place in the White House.
Now, and what I see there, and my first gut reaction is, you call it an Anglosphere, whatever. You're racist, you're bigoted, it's a collection of the white world and European colonialism, blah, blah, blah. Doctor, I can just predict what the left is going to say, and they're going to continue with their strange, shrill narrative.
Look, one of the problems that you have is you've got relentless, angry, people who are simply overwhelmed with fear. It seems to me that this petulant group of crybabies in the United States today has finally got to come to the conclusion that there's very little that they're going to do to influence the policy direction of the Trump administration. Already, he's achieved so many of the things that he said during the course of the campaign. We've introduced the pipeline. I mean, this is very, very important because there are probably 60,000 jobs that come along with it. In addition to the pipeline, he's talked about the elimination of the PPE. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have trade agreements in the Pacific. What it does mean is that they're going to be bilateral agreements where the United States can work out an accord that is good for this country. So, again, what you're seeing is very significant developments. The more people are out in the streets demonstrating, the more likely it is that Trump will have the kind of support from Congress that he wants. So, in a way, these people are actually working in the benefit of Donald Trump.
Well, and there you go. And Donald, and look at what's happening already. While there's all this chaos and noise about whether there's a bigger crowd or a smaller crowd or illegals voted or whatever it is, Donald Trump does have a problem with his ego sometimes because he feels like he has to run the table on everything. And if he didn't get the biggest crowd and didn't get the most votes, then he argues about things that mean nothing. But in the meantime, when he focuses on policy and he gets things done with the TPP and he gets things done with the pipelines, and today it's going to be on immigration. And, you know, here's what I've concluded, Doctor. And I said this before. I said when the left was attacking Donald Trump, they weren't afraid of him losing the election. They were afraid of him winning. And now they are not afraid of Donald Trump being unsuccessful. Quite the opposite. They're quite afraid that Donald Trump's going to succeed in every single promise he made and then some. And that's exactly what's going on now. And that's why they're in full-on panic attack.
Well, I think you've got it. You stated it very well, and it's exactly right. I mean, one of the things that's so interesting from my point of view is that could you imagine the truckers union and those people from the private enterprise and those Republicans from government getting together and talking about why they're pleased with the direction that Trump is taking with the PPE? I never could have imagined that this would happen. It certainly wouldn't have happened with Hillary Clinton. And so what you have here, even the unions have come to the conclusion that Donald Trump is working in their behalf for the creation of jobs.
Well, exactly. Can you imagine Richard Trumka comes to the White House to sit down with the president, not the president you would have thought, and said, I'm with this guy. Can you imagine Richard Trumka, the same one that endorsed Hillary Clinton, comes to the White House to sit down with Donald Trump and says very positive things on the way in and more on the way out?
No, it's absolutely remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. You would never think that this is going to happen with a Republican administration. So I think that what you're seeing here is a very, very significant and, in my judgment, remarkable and formidable development in American politics. The change in the Republican Party is very, very interesting. And this could mean that Donald Trump is setting the stage, a pathway for the Republicans to be in power for the next 10, 20 years.
Well, you know, here's the thing. I believe you're correct about that. And I also believe that this shrill narrative on the left, fueled by the likes of Madonna or Michael Moore or these DNC people that are running for office saying we have to tell white people to sit down and shut up or whatever they're doing, or even the woman on the plane that we've all seen who goes ballistic on a guy next to her just because he's a Trump supporter and doesn't believe the way she does. If the left continues to conduct itself from the grassroots to whatever offices they hold, this will continue to strengthen Donald Trump. This will continue to empower people that whether they say something in public or not, when they go behind that curtain, they pull the lever for Donald Trump just like they did last time, but they don't want to argue about it. They don't want to be berated about it. They don't want to be labeled. They just want this guy to be in charge because they do not like what they've been hearing from the left for many years now, and now they're ready and brave enough and have the courage to do something about it.
Well, what you see is a revolution against political correctness. What you're seeing is a lot of people who have been left behind who finally say, you know something, we've got a voice here in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump is the embodiment of that voice. There are people who are starting to flex their muscle and say, you know something, it's about time that we started to speak out about our political concerns. And these are the people who, by and large, represent the Trump phenomenon. Again, one would not have guessed during the campaign season that this campaign would take this form, that it would have this kind of success, that it would bring about this kind of fundamental change in America. But I can see it coming. It is definitely coming. And with the Brexit vote, you are now seeing something that is, again, an international phenomenon. And as I indicated, I do think, whether you call it racist or whatever you call it, the Anglosphere is the possible development of this kind of cross-Atlantic trade agreement, bringing together people from around the globe in the way the Commonwealth did, which may include India and a variety of other nations, that have been influenced by the Commonwealth is an extraordinary development in world history.
Well, it's extraordinary for sure. We're going to watch Theresa May's visit with great interest. You and I will, and then I'm sure we'll reflect on that visit and much more, because so much happens every day in the Trump administration. You need a list to keep up with everything that's going on, and kind of a score sheet. So we'll talk more about it next time, Doctor. Greatly appreciate it.
Well, always a pleasure to be with you.
Dr. Herb London, from the president of the London Center for Policy Research. We'll talk soon. Back after this.
Delivering Michigan common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
1 foot on the brake and 1 on the gas. Hey!
All right, heading through hour 2 here on the Steve Gruber Show, 45 after. So much going on. Our next guest, Edwin Walker from U.S. Law Shield, one of the country's leading voices on Second Amendment issues. Does a new federal court ruling infringe on the rights of gun owners? A major gun rights case may soon be headed to the U.S. Supreme Court. What could it mean for you? What could it mean for you? If does it mean that you can be frisked anytime, even if you have a concealed carry permit? Edwin Walker here again. Edwin, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me, Steve.
Lay this out for us. Give us a thumbnail of what this is about and why I should be concerned.
Okay. Well, the reason you should be concerned, it's a decision from the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. It is from the entire court, which means, I'm sorry, my voice is going a little. It's from the entire court, which means that it sat en banc, which means that the entire court heard the case and decided it. It was a split decision right down the middle, 5-4, in favor of upholding the conviction of a man who, due to an anonymous tip into the police, said that a man was seen, and this took place in West Virginia, where carrying a handgun is legal, saw a man with a handgun get into a car in an area that was known for drug transactions. The police, based only on that tip, stopped him, frisked him, found out that he was in possession of a handgun, and his possession was illegal because he was a felon. Now, that is something that they would not have known otherwise before they stopped him. They found that out after the fact. So he moved to suppress the stop, the search, the gun, and the district court initially granted it. Said, yeah, this is an illegal search. You've got nothing more than an anonymous tip. And the appellate court, the district court granted the motion. The appellate court initially overturned it and said, yes, this is a bad search. The entire court granted it. This is important because there's 3 opinions, the majority opinion, the concurring opinion, and the dissenting opinion, and they all seem to lead to the conclusion that basically you either have Second Amendment rights or you have Fourth Amendment rights, and you cannot have both. That the court says having a gun is a dangerous activity, therefore the police have the ability to protect themselves, therefore they can search anybody that they reasonably believe has a gun for whatever reason. And the court seemed to agree to that. This is important because ever since the 2 landmark Second Amendment cases coming from the Supreme Court, Heller, D.C. versus Heller, and McDonald versus Chicago, the Supreme Court has refused to hear any other Second Amendment cases. So the official position of the Supreme Court right now is that somebody has an individual right to a firearm, but that only extends to their house. There's no right further than that, and the states can regulate it. Now, and they refuse to hear any of those other cases. However, now you have a case where the state has said, yeah, we believe somebody does have a right to have a gun outside their house, and the feds are saying, well, the exception to the Fourth Amendment supersedes your Second Amendment rights to carry because of officer safety. And so they've kind of created 2 issues: Second Amendment versus Fourth Amendment, and officer safety versus the Second Amendment.
So that it makes it a mess. Here's what I'm concerned about, and I'm a little confused about, Edwin, and maybe you can explain. But when I listen to the left say stop and frisk is wrong, it violates human rights, blah, blah, blah. But stop and frisk finds guns, does it not? Stop and frisk finds illegal firearms. That's been the case in the pattern in all the cities that it was implemented in. And the left hates guns. So what is more important to the left? Stop and frisk, which if done across the board has been shown not to be unconstitutional. It's when you target certain groups that it crosses the line that the courts were not pleased with. Illegal gun ownership and possession, not legal. So how do they balance that out?
Well, that's actually, that's a great question. That is sort of, that will be the question of the day in the event the Supreme Court agrees to hear this case, which I believe they will. I think that this has finally ground down the issue of competing rights, and I think that there will be a lot of soul searching, if there is, on the Supreme Court, where justices who have traditionally been in favor of the Second Amendment and less in favor of the Fourth Amendment will have to deeply analyze which one of those rights they believe in more. And the same goes for the folks who are very, very supportive of the Fourth Amendment and are against stop and frisk and do believe that police officers have to have a reasonable suspicion of criminal activity versus their dislike of firearms. And this case perfectly brings that into focus. So it is just the type of case that the Supreme Court should take up and hear, because the circuits are split on this. There are some circuits which say, no, carrying a gun is illegal activity, does not form the basis of a proper stop and frisk. But then there are other courts like this one and like the Ninth Circuit that basically says Second Amendment doesn't mean a thing outside your house, so of course the police can stop you and search you.
Well, there you go. And, of course, well, I guess we'll have to... When is this going to go to the court? When do you think it's going to make its way through? Because we have to keep an eye on this and see where it goes. What are your thoughts timetable-wise?
Well, the decision just came down this week. It came down on the 23rd, on Monday, and there'll be 90 days to apply for a writ of certiorari, which is basically a request to the Supreme Court that they hear the case. And so we will know whether or not the Supreme Court's going to take the case by at least the end of the court's term, this term, which will end in June. So we'll know whether or not it's going to be on next term's docket, which starts in October.
All right, well, there you go. Edwin Walker, U.S. Law Shield. Fascinating case, and, it's going to pit one side against the other and one side against itself, as far as I can tell. Greatly appreciate it, Edwin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for having me. It's always a pleasure.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll have Bryan Crabtree, and we're going to have a woman's voice on the march in Washington over the weekend. Take a quick break here. You're listening to the Steve Gruber Show. Thanks for stopping in. We'll be right back. All right, bullet points for today, Wednesday. I was just in an argument with Thomas Friedman from the New York Times live on TV. I'll tell you about that in a second. Happened just a few minutes ago. It was good fun, I'll tell you that. Donald Trump, despite his distractions, it seems that he has this need to run the table, you see. And he always wants to claim mass victory, which is why I think he argued about the crowd size, and I think that's why he, is arguing about, popular vote and so forth. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is he's plowing through with all sorts of executive actions. We'll talk about that. On the program today, Todd Wood will be here, Dr. Herb London, Julie Gunlock, and Bryan Crabtree, to name a few. How do we do it? I haven't any idea. Pixie dust, unicorns, and rainbows on occasion. Now get your coffee, sit down, keep still. It's time for the Steve Gruber Show.
This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me, gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, my friends, welcome to it. It is Wednesday here on the program. Glad to have you on board. Greatly appreciate you being here. So much to talk about as Donald Trump is, plowing through his agenda faster than anybody could have imagined The Keystone Pipeline back online, as is the Dakota Pipeline, both now encouraged to reapply for their chance to get built, as it were. These are all executive orders happening. This is what happens when former President Barack Obama signed everything by executive order. Well, it's easy to overturn those things fast and furious, which is what he's doing. He's turning them over fast and furious. And by the way, his tracking poll, the latest polling numbers on the president's popularity, shocking to me. 57% of likely U.S. voters, according to Rasmussen, are approving now of Donald Trump's job performance. Can you imagine? Yeah, Donald Trump, the guy who they said could never be elected, the guy who they said could never possibly be elected, now he's got 57% job approval rating. And that, my friends, is pretty, it's stunning, frankly. Absolutely stunning. Yes, his numbers, again, 57% of likely U.S. voters are supporting Donald Trump's job performance, 43% disapprove. The latest figures include 42% who strongly approve of the way he is doing his job, and only 33% who strongly disapprove, which brings me back to this whole narrative. It seems that the left, the hitman, if you will, the enforcers, if this were hockey, the enforcers for the left are now Hollywood. If you cross the line, Hollywood will come, and take you out. Chelsea Handler, that's her name. I had to look over here. Chelsea Handler. She's now making fun of Melania Trump. She can barely speak English, says Chelsea Handler, who thinks building a wall at the southern border is racist and bigoted and xenophobic. But it's perfectly fine to take shots at Melania Trump, who, by the way, can speak 5 languages. 5 languages. So Melania Trump can speak 5 languages, and it's perfectly okay for the left to attack her because that's not racist. That's just, that's comedy, apparently. And attacking Barron Trump, a 10-year-old child, that's apparently comedy. Not so much, my friends. Not so much. All right, so the next big thing today, because I'm going to get back to what he did yesterday, but Donald Trump is moving as fast as a freight train and dismantling the Obama legacy, whatever that was. He's doing it quickly. Today, expected to order the construction. Listen carefully, because the left said this would never happen. Remember, after he was elected and after they got up from laying, naked in the fetal position in the middle of their living rooms, eating ice cream, the left, when they got up, they said he would never build the wall. Would not happen. Could not happen. Today, Donald Trump expected to order the construction of the wall along the U.S.-Mexican border and to take actions on immigration, a main cornerstone of his presidential campaign. In fact, he will, he will ban immigration for a period of time from places like Syria, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, and a few other places. And staying true to form, Trump took to Twitter yesterday, posted big day planned on national security tomorrow. That's today. Now, among other things, we will build the wall, says Donald Trump. So for all the left out there who says, he can't, first of all, let's go back. He can't possibly be a serious candidate. He cannot possibly get the nomination. And if he did, he certainly couldn't beat Hillary Clinton, but he did all of those things. I was just on the BBC here on BBC News Television Worldwide about an hour ago now. And I was on with Thomas Friedman from the New York Times, and Friedman saying it's all about the numbers, you see, and there weren't very many people that turned out for the inauguration, and Trump's lying, and he's lying about how many people voted that were illegal aliens, and it's all about the numbers. I said, Tom, you're exactly right. It is about the numbers. Let's go over some of those numbers. 306 electoral votes to 232. Let's start with that number. Let's start with the fact that Donald Trump carried Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And you know what? I did some research here, Tom, and let me tell you something. The number of people that exceeded Donald Trump's inauguration far exceeded the number that attended Hillary's inauguration, because her number was 0. 0. All right, so on immigration today. Here are the states that there'll be some restrictions for access to the United States for refugees that hold some visas. But the restrictions will include Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen for this executive order, which of course has everybody in a hissy fit, like Chelsea from Chelsea lately. Chelsea Handler's in a hissy fit about this, of course, but she's still ripping Melania Trump. Can you imagine? Seriously, can you imagine if anybody on the right had made fun of the way Michelle Obama talked or had said something about she can barely speak English? I can't understand her. You racist bigots. You're all a bunch of racist bigots. Really? But it's perfectly fine when Hollywood... See, Hollywood's the new enforcer. It's like a hockey game. And Hollywood has these people that go out, like Madonna and Ashley Judd and Michael Moore. Hate to see him in anything, from below the shoulders. But anyhow, Michael Moore. And they send these folks out to do all the heavy hitting lately because the Democratic Party doesn't really have anybody right now. They don't have a leader. They're hopeless and they're lost, and their party basically imploded after all these years. And we'll see what happens. Theresa May, Prime Minister of the UK, coming to America Friday. Donald Trump says she could become his Maggie, his Iron Lady, his Margaret Thatcher. Something else for the left to hate. Remember how when Barack Obama went to Margaret Thatcher's funeral and he said, oh, wait, he didn't say anything because he didn't go. Oh, and that's right. The administration didn't even send anybody to Margaret Thatcher's funeral, one of the leading women of the 20th century, the Prime Minister of the UK. They didn't send anybody. It's 14 after. You're listening to The Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
All right, welcome back. Listen, it's 18 after on this Wednesday, 25th of January. I'm glad you're here. By the way, if you ever want to catch any of that BBC stuff, we put that up on the Steve Gruber Show Facebook page. This hour, by the way, brought to you by DTE Energy, providing safe, reliable natural gas to businesses across Michigan. DTE Energy, know your own power. The hotline, there's Mike standing by. Let's get to Mike real quick from Ann Arbor, listening to 1600 Wham. Mike, welcome to it.
Yeah, I didn't know you were an international star.
It happens.
Okay. To the critics of our First Lady, she not only can speak 5 languages, she can read 5 languages, and she can write in 5 languages. Her critics in this country can't even speak English properly.
They've got Pig Latin figured out.
Well, that's even tough for them. And as far as criticizing, the most beautiful First Lady we've ever had.
See, now that's well said, Mike. I appreciate you bringing that to the program today. Mike from Ann Arbor. By the way, if you'd like to join the conversation, 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. And speaking of women, and I've told you this over the last few days since I was in D.C. for the inauguration and then was swept up in the Women's March. And all the repugnant things that were on these signs that had my 12-year-old couldn't look at. Now, they want to tell you that Donald Trump is vulgar and bigoted, misogynistic and xenophobic. They tell you all these things all the time about Donald Trump. The truth is, what I saw on the signs at the Women's March in Washington were far more offensive. And by now, you've certainly seen the video of the loving liberal on the airplane berating a man sitting next to her simply because he had a different political belief, simply because he voted for Donald Trump, like enough Americans did to send the man to the White House, as I recall. But that's the militant left that you're dealing with. And if you don't agree with their causes, my God, they're gonna rain hellfire down upon you. Now, we were looking through the internet and finding people that didn't agree with the march, and man, they got hit hard. And Ivy said, I don't care. And she was perusing the internet, and she saw something that she thought touched her. And I thought the best way to get a woman's perspective is to hear from a woman. Does that make sense to you? Because it makes sense to me. All right. Here's Ivy reflecting on something that she saw and read. Go.
I found this post on social media and thought I would share it with you. I'm not a disgrace to women because I don't support the Women's March. I don't feel I am a second-class citizen because I am a woman. I don't feel my voice is not heard because I am a woman. I don't feel I am not provided opportunities in this life or in America because I am a woman. I don't feel that I don't have control of my body or choices because I am a woman. I do not feel like I'm not respected or undermined because I am a woman. I am a woman. I can make my own choices. I can speak and be heard. I can vote. I can work if I want. I control my body. I can defend myself. I can defend my family. There is nothing stopping me to do anything in this world but myself. I do not blame my circumstances or problems on anything other than my own choices, or even that sometimes in life, we just don't get what we want. I take responsibility for myself. I am a mother, a daughter, a wife, a sister, and a friend. I am not held back in life, but by only the walls I choose not to go over, which is a personal choice. Quit blaming. Take responsibility. If you want to speak, then do so. But do not expect me, a woman, to take you seriously wearing a pink vajayjay hat on your head and screaming profanities and bashing men. If you have beliefs and speak to me in a kind manner, I will listen. But do not expect me to change my beliefs to suit yours. Respect goes both ways. If you want to impress me, especially in regards to women, then speak on the real injustices and tragedies that affect women in foreign countries that do not have the same opportunity or means to have their voices heard, like here in the United States. In Saudi Arabia, women cannot drive. They have no rights and must always be covered. In China and India, infanticide of baby girls is a commonplace. In Afghanistan, there's unequal educational rights for women. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, rapes are brutal and women are left to die, or the HIV-infected are left alone to care for their children. In Mali, women cannot escape the torture of genital mutilation. In Pakistan, in the tribal areas, women are gang raped to pay for men's crimes. In Guatemala, the impoverished female underclass faces domestic violence, rape, and it has the second highest rate of HIV/AIDS after sub-Saharan Africa. An epidemic of gruesome unsolved murders has left hundreds of women dead, some of their bodies left with hate messages. And that's just a few examples. So when women get together in America and whine they don't have equal rights, and march in their clean clothes after eating a hearty breakfast, and it's like a vacation away that they have paid for to get there, this woman does not support it.
And there you go. You see, it's nice to hear a woman's voice say, I can defend myself, and I'm proud to be an American. On the hotline, Keith checking in from Flint. Keith, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for taking my call. Just when I was thinking you were going nationwide with Fox News and heard Dennis Prager mention you by name, now you're on the BBC too, eh?
Well, you know, it's been a pretty good 2017 so far.
Yeah, it's early yet, isn't it?
And we're just getting warmed up. You know, I think that I think we're going to get some things done around here. We're going to make America great again by way of radio, Keith.
Well, you know, and the other thing is Twitter's helping make America great too, because the left is so concerned about Trump going directly to the people through Twitter that they don't have a chance to massage his message, and that's getting them a little bit upset. But he's kind of doing what, and I'm no genius, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I always thought the way to take out the Democratic Party was to go after the media.
And it's working, Keith. We got to leave it there, my friend. Got to run. Thanks for checking in, though. Thanks for the support. Thanks for listening. This is The Steve Gruber Show.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
All right, on this Wednesday, let me catch up with a headline here that you may have heard, you may not have, but a man whose drug-related prison sentence was commuted here just a few weeks ago in November, late November, by President Barack Obama, fatally shot at a halfway house in Michigan, federal halfway house, executed would be a better way to put it. Two men wearing masks burst into Bantam Place in Saginaw. This happened Monday night. They had one target in mind, DeMarlon Thomas, 31 years old, a former Saginaw gang member. Lieutenant David Kaiser said Thomas was shot several times, once in the head, then several more times, as the other 2,000 people in the home were basically corralled up and held at bay. One person watching the group, the other subject located the victim and promptly executed him. This was a very targeted individual for whatever reason, said Kaiser. Oh, I don't know. You know, he was part of a big drug operation, running gang money and so forth. Apparently no security there at that federal halfway house. It'd make me nervous if I was one of the other people whose sentence was commuted by President Obama. President Trump, meantime, continues to do a whole host of things in a fast and furious manner. You know, while they've got Sean Spicer over there debating crowd size, and Madonna dropping F-bombs and all the other distractions, Donald Trump is quickly doing everything he can to get rolling, like stopping TPP, putting the XL pipeline back in place. Today he's going to announce immigration reforms and say, yes, we're building the wall, and here's the first part to get rolling. It's all happening. My good friend, journalist Todd Wood, on the line from the Washington Times and graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, as I mentioned. Todd, welcome back.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks.
I mean, a lot going on. I'm not quite sure where to start, but today the big thing is signing executive orders on immigration, which apparently will restrict refugees coming here from Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen, among others. You're going to have a lot more clearance to get in from those nations going forward. Going to build the wall. The fact of the matter is the left is in a complete panic attack. And they're not doing it because they think, my God, Donald Trump's going to be a failure. No, they know he's going to be successful. And he's going to implement the things that he said he was going to implement. And the people in the middle that voted for him are going to cheer him on. That's what has the left in a panic, in my estimation. What do you think?
Oh, I completely agree. And I think that shot of all the union leaders in the Oval Office a few days ago really put them over the top. That's for sure. Richard
Trumka going from supporting Hillary Clinton and endorsing her, leading his horde of union leaders in there saying, okay, how do we play ball? Yeah, that's got the left a little bit spooked.
Yeah, I guess there's some concern about this whole DREAM Act thing. I mean, I don't know the exact details, but I'm hearing that maybe that has not been curtailed as promised. But that's a small issue at this point compared to everything else.
Well, you look at it, and I'm going to take that under advisement because I agree with you. Look at everything that he's done thus far. He is frozen hiring of federal employees. He has put the Keystone Pipeline back on track so you can reapply. Same thing with the Dakota Access Pipeline. Reapply, because we all know that it's safer to ship oil and energy by pipeline than it is by truck or by train. Ask the folks in Quebec that got a whole city leveled and dozens of people killed here a couple of years ago when a train exploded. We've got that going on. We've got immigration orders going on. We've got people saying they're going to invest in America. We've got billions of dollars coming home from Foxconn and others. I mean, I don't know if it could actually be going much better except for the little snippy arguments with Sean Spicer.
Yeah, I completely agree. The one thing I'm curious about, which I actually don't know, is if, somebody comes here as a refugee, I mean, can they be sent back? I mean, what's the process for that? I mean,
I don't know that answer either, but I would assume certainly you could be sent back. I don't think we're, despite what the left would tell you, somebody showing up from some foreign land making demands of America, they don't have constitutional rights, despite what Chelsea Handler might tell you. That's just not the way it is.
Yeah, so I think we make a safe space over there and bring them back.
Listen, we can send Play-Doh over there too, right? We can get lots of Play-Doh, safe spaces. They can play with bubbles and color. And anyhow, what I've come to the conclusion here, Todd, I was in the middle of the Women's March in Washington on Saturday, not by design, but it was a hell of a learning experience, I'll tell you that. And I was in there, Ivy was in there, my 12-year-old daughter was in there with us. We were just trying to get to a museum, and it was a spectacular learning adventure, not just for me, but for my 12-year-old daughter going, why are these people so hateful? I thought they were about loving and this and that and stuff. And I'm looking at signs, and think about this. I'm looking at signs that would make Donald Trump blush. I mean, people are so...
I was going to say, you weren't dressed up as a part of the female anatomy like some of them were you?
No. But although I would have killed it if I was wearing it. I mean, I would have just killed that outfit. Thanks, Todd. The point that I was getting at, though, Hollywood has become akin to the enforcer on a hockey team. I mean, here's the bully, here's the bulldog, here's the enforcer coming down the ice. If you mess around, Hollywood's going to hit you. But it's not working.
No, it's not working at all. They keep trying, though. It doesn't stop them, although it continues to drive people away from sending those people money. I think that's the consequence.
Let me ask you, I want to do a compare and contrast here, because I mentioned Chelsea Handler here, and I think you wrote about it recently. If a guy that voted for Donald Trump said, let's build a wall, he is labeled as a bigot, a racist, a xenophobe, so on and so forth, and if he makes a comment about somebody who's come here from south of the border that doesn't speak English or doesn't speak it well, you're a bigot, you're a xenophobe, and so on and so forth. But if you insult Melania Trump and you're in Hollywood because she can barely speak English, then, my God, you're praised. You're held up to high esteem because you've nailed the first lady who, by the way, can speak 5 languages, write 5 languages, and is an exceptionally talented individual. I'm confused.
I was. You beat me to it. I was going to say that was the perfect response. Was she only speaks 5 languages? I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I think that made her look very ridiculous. So hopefully, people will just use the economic weapon and don't support these people. My gosh, what else do you need?
Well, and as you're looking at, I thought maybe you and I could start a GoFundMe deal. Where don't think about that. So that we can get Michael Moore on a speaking tour, so he's out there every day. So that Madonna's out there every day. So that Ashley Judd is out there every single day, spewing that liberal love for all to see and to witness. Because the more people see that, the more they go, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, that is so true. But the even bigger thing is the more jobs people get, the less they're going to want to go to these people. I really think we're seeing a complete, I guess, what's the correct word? Revolution in American politics, and the consequences of all this just garbage are going to be felt for a long time to come. That's for sure.
Maybe it's a political renaissance in America.
I think so.
Maybe that's what it is. I mean, honestly, we haven't seen a populist movement like this since Ronald Reagan was elected president. And for the record, everybody, if you want to count numbers, nobody had crowds like Reagan, and there were 42 million people that watched it on TV. That is a number that will never be broken, I believe. So, you can argue about this or that, but I can guarantee you this. I did the numbers, and I compared Trump's inauguration to Hillary's. Nobody showed up for Hillary's inauguration. 0. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, the other statistic is no one will ever match the respect shown to him upon his death either. I mean, people lining the roads for miles, that'll be a big one to beat as well.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I think Donald Trump's going to defy expectations as he has from the beginning. Hold that thought right there, Todd. We're with Todd Wood here on the program. If you've got a question you'd like to throw out there for us, 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. We'll find out what are Todd's travel plans for 2017 and what he's writing about this week. Back in a moment on the Steve Gruber Show.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
Here's a little tidbit for you from Trump's. I mean, the guy's frenetic. He's just continually moving. Heard last night he was still in the office at 8 o'clock working last night. He comes in early. He works late. This is how he gets things done. 70 years old. I hope to be that lucky myself. But President Trump has banned employees of the Environmental Protection Agency from giving social media updates and speaking with reporters until further notice, that coming from the Associated Press. The EPA ban comes amid other reports of agency staff being restricted from interacting with members of Congress and the general public. They want to get their messaging under control. It's not going to be a free-for-all anymore. It's not going to be, post and tweet and Twitter and tweedle. That stuff's over. Because like every government, people on the left, it's censorship. It's the end of America. We're going to ruin America because Donald Trump's destroying the First Amendment. Actually, folks, before you hyperventilate, let me just tell you this. Every government agency that I've ever worked with has a public information officer. The information is always controlled. I don't care if it's a state agency here in Michigan or a federal agency. It's not just a free-for-all. And Donald Trump is putting in protocol that belongs there. Todd, what do you say?
Oh, completely agree. As a former military officer, I mean, you obviously couldn't go talk to the media. I mean, you always had to refer questions to, as you say, the public affairs officer. I mean, you have to be able to control what your employees say, because you don't want them going off on a tangent and destroying the objective of the agency. So, of course, that's rational.
Let me draw on your experience as a military officer and being in uniform and so forth. What do you make of the CIA Director Mike Pompeo being confirmed now? They dragged their feet, but he got confirmed, and now he's in charge. What kind of a mess do you think he has to deal with going forward?
Well, yeah, he's an ex-West Pointer, so Academy grad. So I think he's a really good man for the position. But people have to realize that the leaders of the intelligence agencies are typically politically appointed appointees. So they're beholden to their master, which was Obama. So, and yes, there was friction there, but the rank and file guys, for the most part, and gals, are patriots. They just do their job every day. It's like that in the military as well. So I think that things will be fine there. And I think, as you saw from the standing ovation they gave Trump, that that there's going to be a good relationship there over time.
Here's another guy who I'm curious to know a lot more about. Who's been out there on the battlefield, who's been a commander, worked with SEAL Team 6, Ryan Zinke, U.S. Congressman from Montana, selected now to be the Secretary of the Interior. What do you make of Ryan Zinke and his approach? Because, if you listen to the left, all the water is going to be poisoned, all the land is going to be destroyed. Ryan Zinke is from Montana, a place that I used to live, by the way, and I have an open love affair with Montana. I don't think that you could pick anybody that has a better understanding of what goes on in the world, in the forests and the rivers, and people that want to protect it more than people that live in the western U.S. I think he's a great pick, but of course, like everything else, he gets attacked.
Yeah, I frankly don't know much about the man, to be honest, but I think any guy who's been trained to run a large agency like you are in the military, that I think he'll be fine, obviously. But I just don't know that much about
How is it, though, that this makes me chuckle, Todd. How is it that every single appointee is controversial when it comes to Donald Trump? Anyhow, here a little bit ago, I started my day arguing with Thomas Friedman of the New York Times about an hour and a half ago now. I was on BBC television arguing with him about Washington and so forth, and he's going, Donald Trump's going to have to deal with North Korea and so on and so forth. Yeah. And who do we have to thank for that, Tom? Wouldn't that be Bill Clinton to put that mess together? I mean, seriously. And now we got to deal with North Korea because they're off the rails. And Bill Clinton put together a deal. North Korea will never have nuclear weapons. All we have to do is pacify them and take care of them, and it'll all be great. How did that work out, Todd?
Well, obviously we know how that worked out, but I think the Chinese and other bad actors better be careful, because you got another Reagan in here who will just do what he says. And yesterday China threatened us, or threatened Sean Spicer actually, to be careful on what you say. Well, the reverse is true too. I mean, we still are, if we get our act together, can throw a punch. So,
I think we can throw a punch. Yeah, I think we can throw a punch, and I don't think that Red China, as we should call it, until it's changed otherwise, but Red China should not be wagging its finger at us. Trust me, in the long run, because of their fragile economy, it might have grown dramatically, but it still remains quite fragile from what I can tell. Yeah.
It's a complete bubble. It's a complete charade. It's a Ponzi scheme. I mean, they're building cities and nobody lives in them. It's ridiculous.
See? That's why the Democrats love them. Build utopia. Nobody lives there. Yes, but we built utopia. But nobody lives there. Yes, but see how it goes? Just circular. Yes, but we built utopia. See, they don't care.
And we're going to build another one and another one and another one. Tell me that's not a bubble.
Good Lord. All right. So what are your travel plans for 2017 as you look across places that you want to go report from and write from?
Well, I'm overdue for my back in the USSR tour, so I'll be doing that probably next month, heading to a bunch of former Soviet locations, which I love, actually, and should be interesting. I've actually built a media company where I have reporters in each one of these former places, and we're just reporting on what's happening, because I think there's a big niche that is,
Agreed.
The people just don't understand what is happening in this parts of the world. I'm trying to change that, so give myself a plug real quick. It's tsarizm.com, TSARIZM, if you want to find out about former Soviet issues.
What I'm curious about is one of these smaller former republics of the Soviet Union think about Donald Trump? I'm curious. What do they think about him? What do they think about these conversations between Putin and Trump that have been, basically back and forth across the media world?
Well, the misinformation goes both ways. I mean, obviously the Russians are ecstatic that he's been elected, and they all think he's going to, release the sanctions right away. And I don't think that's the case either. So it's going to be like two dogs sniffing each other for a while.
Now, is Putin going to have his shirt on for that, or is it going to be off during that procedure?
We'll see.
You're killing me. All right. Tell them real quick about your books and where they can find your writing.
LToddwood.com is the best place to go for your signed copy, whether you need a gift or just a great read. I write historical fiction thrillers and things that are steeped in history, but, attached to what's going on in current events. And anyway, great books.
Greatly appreciate it. Todd Wood with his Scratch and Sniff Putin doll. A great morning here, Todd. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
All right, there it is. It's the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be right back.
This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me, gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, welcome to it. It is third hour of the program here, Wednesday, the 25th of January. The 25th of January. A lot going on. New tweets from Donald Trump just in the last hour or so. The president says, I will be asking for a major investigation into voter fraud, including those registered to vote in 2 states, those who are illegal, and even those registered to vote who are dead, and many for a long time. Depending on results, we will strengthen up voting procedures. He does not say which 2 states. I'm going to guess one of those is Nevada, based on what we've been hearing. And then a tweet just minutes ago, I will be making my Supreme Court pick on Thursday of next week. Thank you. So we'll be seeing who his choice is. Okay, so the hotline is open, 888-900-9966. Diane checking in from Ann Arbor. Diane, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Steve. I just wanted to see if we can change the conversation from the vulgar women's march to the pro-life march that's going on this weekend. I don't think they get nearly enough coverage or airtime, and that's what we should be talking about as conservatives.
Well, I don't disagree with that, and that's going on in D.C. as well, correct? It goes on every year.
That's right. Yep.
All right. Do you think that march, Diane, will have an impact, or has had an impact on Donald Trump, who and make a difference on who he picks for the Supreme Court, which he says he's going to do a week from tomorrow? Do you think that is important to him as far as who the Supreme Court justice is?
I think it's very important. I think thus far, I'm extremely pleased. I voted for him. I support him. He's my president. He's doing everything he said he would do. Yeah. I was a former Democrat. I voted for Clinton. Not this time, obviously, for Hillary, but I voted for Bill. I'll admit that. But I could never vote Democratic again. They're so disgusting. I cannot even, none of my views align with theirs any longer.
You must find it tough
to survive. And the more I'm sorry?
You must find it tough to survive in Ann Arbor. I mean, that's a tough place for a conservative.
Well, I'll tell you what. I also supported Romney, and I had his sign out 4 years ago, and I will tell you that my neighbor came over and said we were having a party, and I did everything I could to keep my guests from coming over and pounding on your door and looking your sign out. And I was just like, what?
What are you talking about?
Diane, yeah, she said they wanted to come over. They're like, you need to go over there right now and talk to her because she is so confused. I said, trust me, I'm not confused.
Yeah, trust me.
The killer signs everywhere, and that was okay, and I had no issue with it. But they wanted to, come over and pound on the door and tell me how confused I was. So Yeah, Ann Arbor's a tough town.
But it's okay to stand up for what you believe in, Diane. Thank you for checking in. I greatly appreciate it. I do, and it's good to have a woman's voice here. And I want to get to another woman's voice here because my wife, Ivy, who also works on this program, she was at the Women's March with me on Saturday, and Diane said we should change the conversation to the pro-life march, which is coming up this weekend, and that I appreciate. But before we get there, we've seen a lot of things on the internet in different places, people like Diane and voices like hers, that don't agree with the Women's March. Ivy had a different take on it than much of what you saw in the mainstream media as well, and I'd like to share that with you right now.
I found this post on social media and thought I would share it with you. I'm not a disgrace to women because I don't support the Women's March. I don't feel I am a second-class citizen because I am a woman. I don't feel my voice is not heard because I am a woman. I don't feel I am not provided opportunities in this life or in America because I am a woman. I don't feel that I don't have control of my body or choices because I am a woman. I do not feel like I'm not respected or undermined because I am a woman. I am a woman. I can make my own choices. I can speak and be heard. I can vote. I can work if I want. I control my body. I can defend myself. I can defend my family. There is nothing stopping me to do anything in this world but myself. I do not blame my circumstances or problems on anything other than my own choices, or even that sometimes in life, we just don't get what we want. I take responsibility for myself. I am a mother, a daughter, a wife, a sister, and a friend. I am not held back in life, but by only the walls I choose not to go over, which is a personal choice. Quit blaming. Take responsibility. If you want to speak, then do so. But do not expect me, a woman, to take you seriously wearing a pink vajayjay hat on your head and screaming profanities and bashing men. If you have beliefs and speak to me in a kind manner, I will listen. But do not expect me to change my beliefs to suit yours. Respect goes both ways. If you want to impress me, especially in regards to women, then speak on the real injustices and tragedies that affect women in foreign countries that do not have the same opportunity or means to have their voices heard, like here in the United States. In Saudi Arabia, women cannot drive. They have no rights and must always be covered. In China and India, infanticide of baby girls is a commonplace. In Afghanistan, there's unequal educational rights for women. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, rapes are brutal and women are left to die, or the HIV infected are left alone to care for their children. In Mali, women cannot escape the torture of genital mutilation. In Pakistan, in the tribal areas, women are gang raped to pay for men's crimes. In Guatemala, the impoverished female underclass faces domestic violence, rape, and it has the second highest rate of HIV/AIDS after sub-Saharan Africa. An epidemic of gruesome unsolved murders has left hundreds of women dead, some of their bodies left with hate messages. And that's just a few examples. So when women get together in America and whine they don't have equal rights, and march in their clean clothes after eating a hearty breakfast, and it's like a vacation away that they have paid for to get there, this woman does not support it.
Nor will she ever, do I believe. So there you go. Anyhow, apparently a women's segment here on the program, Diane, and then Ivy, saying that there's a different focus and that they are not victims by being women in America today. They're not subjugated to being second-class citizens. Also true. Also true. And my daughter, 12 years old, that was with us there at the march on Saturday, what rights do men have that I don't? None that I'm aware of, honey. That's what I told her. None that I'm aware of, honey. At least not as long as I've been alive. 14 after on this Wednesday. Thanks for tuning it in. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you on board. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Bryan Crabtree. We're going to talk about Lindsey Graham. I don't know why. Normally I wouldn't do such a thing, but we'll do it right after here.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
Lord, I was born a rambling man, trying to make a living and doing the best I can.
So, all right, so I'm looking at the Rasmussen daily tracking poll here. It says 57% of Americans, 57% of likely voters in America now support Donald Trump. His number's going up steadily since Inauguration Day, right? And yet on Twitter here, I've got people, well, that's not true. His numbers are 42%. Well, gee, you better call Mr. Rasmussen and his organization and tell him that he's, putting out fake news on his site that's done a daily tracking poll as long as I can remember of every president dating back for a very long time. But, I guess the left gets their alternative facts as well. Bryan Crabtree here, contributor to townhall.com and a rising and influential young voice in conservative media. Bryan, welcome to it.
Great to be back.
How you doing, my friend?
Doing well. That Rasmussen poll there, that was the same poll that all of the media said was wrong about Donald Trump winning the election.
Oh, that's right.
And in fact, it turned out to be right.
Golly.
Funny about that.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because if you didn't, I would have. Because there it is, because that was the point I was waiting for. Thank you for doing that, Bryan. Because Rasmussen was the one that was ridiculed and laughed at and dismissed, along with the IBD tip poll, both of which were the only two, I think, in fact, that had him winning on Election Day, which, of course, he did. But here you go. It's the complete Xanax moment for the Democrats. Panic attack, express. They can't stop. They're out of control. And they can talk about crowd size, and Donald Trump can egg them on, because while all of that's going on, TPP is getting handled. Jobs are getting handled. Immigration's getting handled. He's ready to select a Supreme Court justice. He doesn't need their approval, because guess what? We don't have Article 50 here in America like they do trying to stop the Brexit vote. Donald Trump is president, period, paragraph.
Yeah, and it was funny. I was driving home last night. I was going, maybe this thing about the crowd size really is voting poorly for Donald Trump. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Wait a minute. This is all they're talking about, the liberals, the leftists, the media. And while he's worried about crowd size, they think he's doing like dozens of executive orders, many of which are things that conservatives have just, dreamed about for the last 8 years. They're not even covering that. So the fact is he's getting a free pass on all the conservative political positions that he's taking in executive orders and in actions. And the media is worried about the crowd size. So yet again, it's another brilliant Trump ruse. And I think that's why he did it.
Well, and again, as he, as crazy as a fox. Meanwhile, Theresa May on her way to town, and it looks like the British need a friend, right? Because they're getting out of the EU, and despite this Brexit Article 50 nonsense, trust me, they're leaving the EU. This will have no effect. In fact, it might actually accelerate the process. And Donald Trump, does he need a friend? Yeah, I think he's good either way right now. I don't think he really cares. But as you look at his rising poll numbers. You've got Richard Trumka and the union leaders all sitting in his office a few days after all of the big business leaders from all the giant CEOs of the big corporations in America got together. I mean, everybody that's anybody, whether the left cares to admit it or not, keep showing up at the White House to deal with Donald Trump, because they're like, hey, maybe he's onto something. I mean, that's the impression I'm getting.
Here's the thing that happens, too. If you notice, all these people go to meet with Donald Trump, and one of two things happens when they leave. Either they don't say anything else negative, or they come out with a very positive impression, because when you have the left stirring things up and inflating and conflating the reality of who Donald Trump really is, making him seem like a monster and a demon, and you're walking in because he's the president of the United States and you're going to meet with him, you're like, oh, my God, what's this going to be like? He's going to be this terrible, mean monster I've got to sit with for all this time. And he turns out to be warm, humble, nice, intelligent, thoughtful, well-prepared, and you're like, wait a minute. This isn't who I thought I was meeting with, and you're stunned, and you walk out. You either no longer are negative, or you come out, as many have, very positive, realizing this guy is nothing like what everyone on the left is saying he is. And I think that's going to take some time to burn into the equation. But
well, isn't that nice? I mean,
happen.
And you're exactly right, Brian. No question about it. Let's think about this. Donald Trump wasn't a bad guy and a bigot and a misogynist and a homophobe and a xenophobe and every other phobe that they've labeled him with until he ran for president as a Republican. Remember, he was friends with all these people. He dealt with lots of these people. And all of a sudden, he's the worst guy on the planet. I mean, come on.
Well, and you know, I was up in Washington, D.C. for the inauguration, and I happened to get caught up in that march, and you start to realize who these people really are. These are detached people, meaning they have no cognition. They can't take the world in for all of its good and its bad. They only want the good and none of the bad, and they think that there's this utopia of fairness that's going to occur, and people like Donald Trump are their existential threat to this utopia that they desire. And so these folks that are really throwing I'd call it a hissy fit, are really just petulant children emotionally, and they're having the temper tantrum like my kids used to have when you wouldn't get them a toy in a Walmart. So that's really what's happening right now is they're not getting their way. And for the first time in decades, they had gotten their way almost unfettered from the Barack Obama administration. And that's really what this outrage is about. The media is just part of it. It's unfortunate. It's worse than I think we in conservative radio have ever opined. It's worse in the media than we thought.
Let me explain it to folks so it's real clear, and you can take this talking point to the water cooler today and for the rest of your time. When the media and the left began attacking Donald Trump, you know, in the summer of 2015 and into the fall of 2015 and became louder and more shrill as you headed towards Christmas and then into the new year of 2016, they weren't attacking Donald Trump because they thought he would not get the nomination and thought that he couldn't win. They attacked him because they knew damn well he could win. And they're not attacking him now because they think he is going to fail as a leader. They are attacking him now with ever shrill, more ridiculous, and more panic-stricken attacks because they know he's going to succeed and do exactly what he said he's going to do for the American people. The American people that voted for him, he will be a success. Brian, I'll give you the last word.
I saw a stat yesterday, and it said that 86% of America believe that there's fake news and that it's a big threat to our American way of life. By contrast, only 14% of America approves of the news media. Add 86 and 14 together, what do you get? 100. That's a pretty provable point that the Americans, regardless of political spectrum, except the hacks on the left, believe the media is completely flawed, and they are not listening to the noise any longer, even if they're watching it or hearing it.
Getting your day started with news from around the state and around the world. Common Sense Radio. This is the Steve Gruber Show.
It's the Steve Gruber Show. If you'd like to jump on, now's a good, convenient moment for me. Anything that's on your mind that you feel like talking about. Steve usually has something to say. You know, he usually has a couple of cups of coffee in him by now and charged up and ready to, you know, to run up the hill and plant the flag. Steve, welcome to the program. Steve, are you there, buddy?
Here's what's happened in the big picture, in my opinion. I believe finally the crazies are being exposed in the Democratic Party, and they basically hijacked the whole party. And the real Democrats said, "No, we can't do this, and we only have one way to go, and it's not with the radical left." And that's exactly what's happened here, in my opinion.
So the radical left. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Melting it all down and summing it up instead of beating on it for the next 10 hours. That's kind of what happened, in my opinion.
But you know what the left is going to do for the next 4 years? They're going to pound and cry and point and sue and complain and disparage and tell anybody that doesn't agree with them, just like that woman on that plane that got thrown off the plane that we've all seen the video now. Just like that woman, that's how the left's going to treat you. And yet that's why most people that are voting for Donald Trump and did vote for Donald Trump don't say anything. They go about their business. They keep their head down.
And the really sad part of this is they sneer at people like Kellyanne Conway.
Well, of course they do. Of course they do. Anyhow, Steve, always a good conversation. Thank you very much. See people sneer. Let's further explore this problem. Okay, let's further explore this issue, and I'm going to do that with some of the people talking about wanting to be in charge of the Democratic National Committee. You see, they were getting together, and this woman, Sally Boynton Brown. Sally Boynton Brown, a nice Idaho Democratic Party executive. She's the executive director, in fact, of the Idaho Democratic Party, told an uproarious applauding crowd at the Democracy of Color Forum in Washington, D.C. that she needs to tell white people basically to sit down and shut up. Really? Go ahead. We'll listen to this as long as I can take it. Then I'll take your phone calls, 888-900-9966. Go ahead. Clip 18. Roll it.
And it makes me sad that we're even having that conversation. And that tells me that white leaders in our party have failed. We have to accept that there is prejudice that exists within our own party. And we have to be able to have that conversation. We cannot sweep that under the rug. We cannot continue to hide it. We cannot smash voices down when they are trying to scream, listen to me, you don't get it. I'm a white woman. I don't get it. I am pleased and honored to be here today to have the conversation. I am so excited that we're here. And I am listening because that's my job. My job is to listen to the issues. My job is to listen and be a voice. And my job is to shut other white people down when they want to interrupt.
Wow, that's your job?
My job
Hold on.
Can we pause it there? White people down.
I need to shut white people down so they don't interact. Because if you're a white person, you're not allowed to contribute, have a conversation, have an opinion. You're white. Why the hell should you be able to talk? I mean, this is the kind of twisted, screwed up thinking that has infected these people on the left, and they think if they scream louder and louder and insult you and me and berate us, somehow that'll get us to support them. I mean, I know, let's do this. If we call the people that didn't vote for us really stupid, we called them stupid before, but if we call them really stupid now, I'm sure they'll vote for us. Brian on the hotline in Lansing. Brian, welcome to the program. Brian, are you there? All right. Not sure what happened there, and we lost Brian, but that's okay. Can we pick that tape back up? Brian will get back to us. Whoever. 888-900-9966. All right. So if you're a white person, you're not allowed. I don't want to hear from you. Okay, carry on.
When they want to say, oh, no, I'm not prejudiced. I'm a Democrat. I'm accepting. My job is to make sure that they get that they have privilege. And until we shut our mouths and we listen to those people who don't, and we lift our people up so that we all have equity in this country, so that we are all fighting alongside each other, so that we are all on the same page, and we clearly get where we're going, we're not going to break through this. This is not just rhetoric. This is life or death. This moment in our country, the Democratic Party has the opportunity to do something different. We have the opportunity to really confront the fact that we have not been in alignment with our values. We've been talking a lot of smack.
All right, there you go. Let's leave it right there. Enough. You've been talking a lot of smack, all right. And I'm going to tell you one more time. You can take it for whatever it's worth. Take it for whatever it's worth. That if you continue to berate, attack, insult, label, put down, marginalize, dismiss the people that didn't vote for you in 2016, and if you continue to call them stupid, bigoted, misogynist, xenophobic morons, I'm sure they'll line right up at the polls for you. I'm sure that's what it'll take. If you just insult them more, you'll get their votes. Please. Meanwhile, I've got those on the left, going after me on Twitter because Rasmussen has the first, has a job approval rating of President Trump at 57% today. 57%. And, of course, they're trying to say that that's just not true. Of course, that's like Bryan Crabtree you and I were just talking about. It's the same Rasmussen they said couldn't be believed when he said Donald Trump was ahead by a point or two in the race to become president of the United States. That would be the same Rasmussen that was right about Donald Trump being elected along with the IBD tip poll, but those on the left will not be swayed by the facts of the matter. And the facts of the matter is this. Donald Trump won. Rasmussen predicted it. So did I. IBD tip poll predicted it. So did I. In fact, I predicted it back in July and continued down that path. And do I believe in everything Donald Trump does? No, absolutely not. Am I going to hold him accountable? Absolutely. But it does wear me out and irritate me that the left can't accept that they lost. And they keep trying to say, well, look at this poll. We've got a Gallup poll here where he has the lowest ratings of any incoming president. And so what? Ronald Reagan was almost at the very bottom of that list of how popular they were coming in. Lyndon Johnson almost at the top, along with Gerald Ford. And so I say, and so what? It means, let me see, what does it mean? Oh, yeah, absolutely nothing. Anyhow, by now you've probably heard us talk about CRTV here on the Steve Gruber Show. CRTV just launched an all-digital conservative media network featuring exclusive and commercial-free TV shows from heavyweight conservatives like Mark Levin, Michelle Malkin, Mark Stein, and Steven Crowder, just to name a few. Right now, you can get a full year of CRTV for less than $9 a month. Watch every CRTV show on demand on any of your favorite devices. To sign up right now, go to crtv.com/Gruber. It's all one word. crtv.com/Gruber. Tell them I sent you. Back in a moment.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
All right, quickly to the hotline, Dana. It's the woman's voice here on the Steve Gruber Show today. Lots of women checking in, which I appreciated greatly. The ratings came out, and ladies, I have to say thank you because a lot of you are checking in every day, and I truly do appreciate it. Dana, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Steve. And good morning to you. But I have to say something about what you said. You said your Twitter followers on the left are having a fit about, Donald Trump's popularity going up. And really, shame on you, Steve, because you're confusing them with facts, and it's causing cognitive dissonance.
There it is.
Please stop confusing them with facts. These are emotional beings. They lie, they steal, they cheat, they rant and rave and scream and threaten people and call names until they get their way, and you're trying to deal with these people with facts. So maybe you need to change your approach.
Yeah, let me work on that. I've been working on it for a little more than half a century now. It hasn't worked out so far, Dana, but thank you for the therapy. I need it from time to time, and I greatly appreciate you checking in. Thank you so much, Dana. Cognitive dissonance. That is a big part of what's going on here. Cognitive dissonance. The inability to admit you're wrong in the face of overwhelming empirical evidence. It's like, let's say, for example, Donald Trump wins the presidency with, say, 57% of the Electoral College with 306 electoral votes, and you still refuse to accept it and say, but Hillary, she won the popular vote. Yeah, and so what? Notre Dame had 500 yards of rushing offense and lost the football game. It's not the way we play. But it is entertaining to watch the hissy fit and the panic attacks continuing from Madonna right on down the line. But by the way, we have a big Madonna fan on the line right now, Michael Doherty, big Madonna fan himself, checking in. Michael, welcome back.
Well, I like to refer to her as the woman that dropped out of Michigan because she couldn't hack it.
You had to go for the throat punch, didn't you? You had to go right to it.
Because you know how tough the theater department is.
Well, yeah, she didn't make it there. That's all right. I mean, she's had a great career. That's fine. But how is it that she can drop F-bombs on live TV, yet everybody's worried about Donald Trump being vulgar? Come on, really?
Well, I mean, the thing about it is, as this simmers down and people reflect, it's a good thing that it happened because really, let's just take the mask off. What's going on is I said they used to fire these bullets and they'd work, and this time they're firing blanks. And, you know, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And we're seeing lying, entitlement, spoiled brats. I mean, these are like spoiled children of rich families that take everything for granted and never earned it on their own. You can't tell me those people aren't overpaid, which is fine. It's the marketplace wants to overpay, fine. But there's such a I'm owed this. They don't appreciate their good fortune of being overpaid. And it's amazing. And then when they don't get their way, once again, I mean, just think of a toddler and a temper tantrum, and then comes the "I hate you" stage. I mean, it's very similar. And what I like, though, is the public, I think, is understanding the playbook better. And, you know, the Internet is creating alternatives to Hollywood, alternatives to Madonna's music. And they don't control, we don't have to listen to them, or you don't have to kowtow to them. Now, they make it really tough if you don't within the industry, if you work within the industry. But I think that'll change, too.
Well, we're going to see what happens as we go forward. But look at what's happening already. TPP's out. The pipelines are coming back. We're dealing with immigration. Tweets just went out today that he's going to pick his Supreme Court justice a week from tomorrow, the person to replace Antonin Scalia. There's this distraction with Sean Spicer, the man who originally came out to a podium that was far too large for him, made him look like a midget. Sorry to any short people out there. But it did look completely ridiculous. Fortunately, they've corrected that, Sean, so he doesn't look like an angry little British school child. I'm sorry. Did it look awful, or is it just me, Doherty? It looked ridiculous.
I don't know.
Absolutely
I am very biased because I know him a little bit, and he is such a great guy, and he is actually, just wait. I think he was a little new guyish. You know, it's kind of overwhelming. But wait till he settles in. He's pretty tough.
Oh, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. He got off to a rough start, but he did look. I mean, if Saturday Night Live doesn't do something with that, you know, I'm going to be a little embarrassed for them. But as I look at what's going on, Donald Trump's getting a ton of things done while there's this noise and distraction. He's rolling right through it, man. He's on it. He said he's going to sign the legislation today to build the wall. It's all happening.
Which I'm sorry, the guy is so smart with this. I had said this 2 days ago. It's like he threw a smoke bomb into a crowd of media. So while they went and sniffed it, he was over here doing something else. and then he's going to have them so busy. You know, I love that Jonathan Karl question, though, about, well, will you be honest with us in the future? And I would have gone, yeah, will you? They're just, you know, we get it now.
Exactly.
But oh, well.
So what do you think? What do you think the next, I mean, we're only 6 days, day 6, right, out of 100? At this pace, you know, he'll get to take the next 3.5 years off.
Well, this is the good part. Listen, when you live by the executive order, Barack Obama, you die by the executive order. Barack Obama, since he didn't work with, by the way, his own party, anyone that knows anything about Congress knows that Barack Obama never went to the Hill. And Barack Obama never even broke bread with his own party. And then since he thought he was royalty, he built all these things on executive order. Guess what you can untie in 2 seconds? The executive order.
Exactly.
So the legacy is going to fall really quick. And, you know, when you throw your best shots and scream and yell and have a temper tantrum in a march, and we all go, meh. Then, you know, what you got. So
let's go over this. Let's go over this again, because there's been a lot of arguments real quickly over the amount of people that turned out for Trump's inauguration. And I don't know what the number was, 1 million, 1.2 million, whatever it was. But the number of people that turned out for Hillary's inauguration was 0. All right, I'm good. I'm good now. I'm better, Doherty. Thanks for helping me out, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right, I'm glad you're doing good. Now, by the way, I was watching on Facebook this morning because I'm such a fan. And could you please explain to me why you're in a suit and tie?
Because I was on the BBC earlier. Let's get to the hotline real quickly. Charlie checking in from Grand Rapids. Charlie, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for taking my call. When Obama was going through all the pardons of these criminals here in the last couple of weeks, 380 drug dealers or whatever, I think they missed one guy, and that's Dinesh D'Souza. I know he's a real hardcore criminal, and he has, committed so many felonious acts. But I'm wondering if there's some way we couldn't get something going here and see about a pardon for Dinesh. I think his crime is probably equivalent to jaywalking.
What he did was pretty minor and never been punished. Charlie, thank you for checking in. I don't disagree with you. In fact, we're going to have Dinesh here on the program. We had him scheduled a few days ago, and then he got a conflict during the inauguration, but we hope to have him here on the program here in the next few days. We'll keep that in mind. Let me finish with this today. If you keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count on you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. If, by Rudyard Kipling. And on that note, keep the faith, my friends. I'm Steve Gruber. We'll talk tomorrow.